It all began with a simple letter, neatly typed and signed in blue ink by Lieutenant Rachel Myers, a 27-year-old military nutrition officer stationed at Fort Ridge, a quiet base tucked into rural Virginia. The letter wasn't political or even official, it was deeply personal. Rachel, after a week of mud, exhaustion, and flavorless rations, had seen one soldier joke that the beef stew Marie tasted like betrayal. That night, she chuckled to herself and wrote the letter, a challenge to the president, not to attend a press event or pose for the cameras, but to sit down and try a military meal like one of the troops. She never expected a response. 3 days later, her phone rang. "This is the White House," a warm voice said. "The president read your letter and has one question: what's for dinner?" By sunrise the next day, Fort Ridge was abuzz with energy. Secret Service agents canvassed the base. Soldiers whispered in disbelief. Trump was really coming. Rachel kept calm. There would be no catering, no silverware, no handlers with script cards, just a plain brown Marie bag, a flameless heater pack, and a folding chair among the troops. She stood in the mess tent doorway as military trucks passed, straightening her uniform with a half-smile. He asked for it, she thought. And he was about to get it. At exactly 1,100 hours, Marine One touched down on a dusty helipad. Soldiers snapped to attention as former President Donald J. Trump stepped off the aircraft, not in a suit, but in a windbreaker, khakis, and tan boots. No media frenzy, just a few aides, Secret Service, and curiosity in his step. As he approached, he greeted Rachel with a grin. "You're the brave soul who invited me to lunch," he said. "I like that." She saluted, welcoming him to Fort Ridge. "Your table's ready," she said, though I use the term loosely. Trump laughed. "I didn't come for tablecloths." Inside the tent, a plain folding table awaited, stacked with brown Marie packs and a metal canteen. 6 young soldiers, hand-picked by Rachel, sat stiffly in their seats. Trump sat beside Private Tony Vasquez, a 19-year-old who looked ready to pass out from nerves. Trump patted his back and quipped, "You look like you've seen combat already," breaking the tension with a ripple of laughter. Rachel stepped forward, smirking. "All right, Mr. President. Here are your options: chili with beans, beef stew, or mystery meat surprise. We recommend the stew, if you value your taste buds." Trump raised an eyebrow. "You're not making this easy." Rachel just shrugged. "Neither is war." The tent fell silent. Trump nodded, accepting the challenge. He ripped open the brown plastic pouch, eyeing it like alien tech. "Feels like I'm opening a space ration," he muttered. Private Vasquez leaned over. "You've got to heat it with the flameless heater, sir. Just add water. Then wait, and pray." Chuckling, Trump followed instructions as soldiers sneaked glances, amused at the sight of a former president fumbling with a heater bag. Steam puffed. Trump opened the warm stew pouch, sniffing it with mock suspicion. "Smells like effort," he declared. Then he took a bite. Silence. He chewed. And then came the verdict, "It's like my taste buds went to boot camp." The whole room burst out laughing. Even Rachel couldn't help but smile. But then Trump grew serious. "I've had 5-star meals that didn't come close to the dedication that went into making this shelf-stable stew. Respect to whoever made this possible." Private Jenkins across the table raised his hand. "Sir, we just call it punishment in a pouch." Trump grinned. "Punishment or not, you all eat this to stay strong while protecting this country. That makes it gourmet in my book." A hush, then claps, then smiles all around. Rachel looked around. Something had shifted. This wasn't a PR stunt, it was real. Honest. Unexpected. Trump reached for the pound cake dessert and asked, "So, who decides what you eat?" Rachel stepped forward. That was her world. The science. The testing. The human element behind each vacuum-sealed meal. These aren't just calories, she explained. They're survival tools engineered to last through jungle, desert, and ice. A small team makes it happen: dietitians, chemists, vets. We test everything. And we test it again in the field. Trump nodded slowly, unwrapping a peanut butter cracker. I never thought about the people behind the packaging. Rachel smiled. Most don't. But someone has to make sure our soldiers stay fueled, and still feel human. Private Vasquez added, honestly, when you're freezing and hungry, even this cracker feels like a hug. Trump looked around the room. And he listened. The laughter from the Emory taste test was still echoing when Trump turned to Private Jenkins and asked casually, how long have you been in service? Jenkins, wide-eyed, responded, 8 months, sir. Just out of boot camp. Trump grinned. 8 months more than most ever give. You've earned every bite of this delicious cardboard. The room erupted again, soldiers chuckling with the ease of young men still getting used to the weight of their uniforms. But the moment shifted when Rachel reached into her pocket and pulled out a worn, creased photo of a woman in uniform, helmet slightly crooked, smile unbreakable. My mom, Rachel said quietly. She served in Iraq. MREs were all she ate for months. She used to joke in her letters about how awful they tasted, but also that she'd never forget them. Trump leaned in, eyes on the photo. She's the reason you serve? Rachel nodded. She passed when I was 14. Cancer. But she always told me, feed the fighters, not the fear. I guess I took that literally. The tent fell quiet. Trump gently placed the photo on the table. She'd be proud. And so am I. And just like that, the laughter gave way to something deeper. Respect. Real, unfiltered connection. Trump leaned back in his folding chair, only halfway finished. Rachel, what's the hardest part of your job? She blinked, caught off guard. You mean besides feeding hundreds of people who pretend to like the food? A soft ripple of laughter passed again. But Trump pressed, gently this time. No, really. The emotional side. What's heavy on your shoulders? Rachel hesitated, then said what most people never hear, watching young soldiers go off to war with nothing but this food and a goodbye phone call. The tent grew still. They joke about the taste, but deep down, you know some won't come back. And that bag of stew may be their last meal. Private Vasquez stared at the floor. Jenkins swallowed hard. Trump said nothing at first, just nodded slowly. Nobody tells you that part, when you're sitting in the Oval Office. Rachel's voice dropped to a near whisper. They should. Outside, wind rustled the trees. A distant chopper stirred the air. But inside, everything was still. Then Trump turned to the group. Do any of you write home? Letters? Jenkins shrugged. I try. My mom worries. Trump smiled. Mothers always do. Mine used to say, no matter how big the world gets, write like you're in the same room. Rachel smiled gently. That's beautiful. He looked around at their faces, young, tired, strong. You're all writing a piece of this country's story. And I'm grateful to be here to hear it. The moment changed. This wasn't a meal anymore. It was a memory in the making. Trump looked down at his untouched oatmeal cookie. I'll be honest. I thought I'd come here, try a military meal, crack a few jokes, and be on my way. Private Vasquez smirked. Sir, that's pretty much what we expected too. Laughter returned for a beat, but the emotion stayed close beneath the surface. Trump continued, softer now, but hearing about Rachel's mom, thinking about your families back home, it's more than just food. It's a reminder. Rachel asked quietly, a reminder of what? Trump didn't hesitate. That freedom isn't served on a silver platter. It comes in brown plastic pouches, opened by people willing to give everything. The room froze. And for a moment, no one breathed. "You all signed up knowing the cost," he said. "That's more courage than most people will ever show." Rachel noticed a few soldiers turn their faces away, trying to hide emotion. Trump saw it too. "But courage isn't just pulling a trigger," he added. "It's sitting here. Eating this stew. Staying hopeful. Showing up for each other. That's leadership." A lump formed in Rachel's throat. She nodded. Trump looked to Vasquez. "How long have you been away from home, son?" 10 months, sir. Missed my sister's wedding. My mom's birthday. And my graduation." Trump raised an eyebrow. "Graduation?" "High school, sir. Got my diploma by mail." There was pride in Vasquez's voice, but behind it, a note of quiet sacrifice. Rachel stepped in. "Tony enlisted right out of school. Sends half his pay home." Trump turned toward him, his expression shifting. "That's noble." "Why?" Tony looked down. "My dad passed. Mom works 2 jobs. I couldn't watch her carry it alone." Something in Trump's face softened. "You remind me of a friend I had in Queens. Didn't have much. But had more honor than anyone I knew." He reached into his coat and pulled out a small gold coin. "This is a challenge coin," he said, placing it into Tony's palm. "Presidential one. I only give it to people who've earned it." Tony's eyes widened. His fingers curled around it like it was glass. Rachel blinked fast, trying not to cry. Trump clapped a hand on the young man's shoulder. "Your family's already proud. But now you've got a piece of history in your hand, and a reminder that your sacrifice matters." Tony nodded, too choked up to reply. Everyone in that tent knew, this wasn't about politics. It was about being human. Then, Trump grinned. "Rachel, what's the worst humor you've ever had?" Rachel laughed. "Oh, that's easy. The old ham and eggs. Looked like regret in a pouch." Jenkins added, "Don't forget the omelet with veggies, aka, the vomit." The whole tent cracked up. Trump nodded with mock solemnity. "I see, culinary crimes have been committed in the name of patriotism." Rachel wiped her eyes, still laughing. "Weirdly, we miss them. When you're eating under a tree or on the back of a Humvee, even the bad ones feel like home." The Emma, infamous for its cardboard cookies and mystery meat, was nearly finished. President Trump looked down at the half-empty pouch in his hands and glanced around the humble tent. "Well," he muttered, "that says a lot." "It does," Rachel nodded, smiling thoughtfully. "Sometimes, it's the worst meals that come with the best stories." Trump tapped the side of his pouch, letting out a chuckle. "Then I'll remember this forever." Private Vasquez grinned and nudged his tray forward. "You're one of us now, sir." Trump raised his canteen in reply. "Then let's toast, to mystery meat, rubbery crackers, cardboard cookies, and the stories we'll tell because of them." Everyone in the tent lifted their water bottles and canteens. They didn't drink for taste. They drank for connection, a bond that didn't need words, forged over rations and shared laughter. After the meal, Rachel quietly handed Trump a small envelope. "What's this?" he asked. "A letter," she said softly. "From one of our oldest living veterans. Captain Eliza Monroe. She's 98. Served in World War II. She still writes to young troops." Trump opened the envelope gently, almost reverently. The handwriting was delicate, but you could see the strength in each letter. "Dear President Trump. If you ever get the chance to sit with our young ones and share a meal, listen. Their courage doesn't need speeches, just ears. Remind them they are not forgotten. Captain Eliza Monroe. U.S. Army Nurse Corps, retired." He read it aloud. Silence fell over the tent like a blanket. When he finished, Trump folded the letter with care, eyes scanning the room, something unspoken shifting in his expression. This is why I came. Rachel, voice barely audible, whispered, she'll be thrilled you read it. Trump nodded slowly. I'd be honored to visit her. And in that moment, a new plan began to form, quiet, personal, but powerful. Suddenly, Colonel Bradford entered, a towering figure with the booming voice of a man who'd seen it all. Mr. President, he said, offering a crisp salute, I hope the meal didn't scare you off. Trump laughed. Colonel, I've survived campaign coffee. This was practically gourmet. Laughter broke the quiet tension. Rachel, Bradford said, you've worked miracles. Rachel smiled. The troops made it easy. The colonel stepped closer. Sir, would you speak to the troops before you go? It would mean a lot. Trump looked around the table, at Vasquez, Rachel, Jenkins. Only if they stand with me. A few confused glances were exchanged. I want these men and women beside me when I speak, Trump clarified. Because today. I didn't lead, I learned. Rachel smiled, her eyes shining with understanding. Outside the tent, troops gathered around the flagpole. There was no stage, no teleprompter, just boots on gravel and hearts wide open. I came here thinking I'd try a military meal and offer a thank you, Trump began. But I was wrong. He glanced at Rachel, then back to the crowd. I didn't just taste food today, I tasted loyalty, sacrifice, and stories this country should never forget. A wave of murmured agreement moved through the crowd. This isn't about politics. This is about people, he said, holding up the emery bag. This bag isn't just calories. It's character. Cheers erupted. Rachel blinked back tears. Later that afternoon, Colonel Bradford pulled Rachel aside and handed her a sealed folder. Effective immediately, you're promoted to captain, he said. You've shown leadership, in logistics and in heart. Her eyes widened. Sir, thank you. Trump approached with a warm smile. Captain Rachel Myers has a nice ring to it. She shook his hand, beaming. Thank you, sir. For everything. Trump winked. Now promise me you'll work on that beef stew recipe. Laughter echoed through the tent. As Trump walked toward Marine One, the troops lined up in rows, saluting. Just before boarding, he turned and called out. To Fort Elridge, thank you for feeding me more than just food. Then, with one final wave, he disappeared into the sky. Back in the tent, Vasquez sat holding a challenge coin, staring at it in disbelief. Rachel joined him. You okay? He nodded. I never thought someone like him would listen. Really listen. Rachel smiled. Sometimes the loudest voices come from the quietest moments. The next day, a video clip of Trump eating the MRE, cracking jokes, and reading Captain Monroe's letter began spreading online. Veterans from every generation commented. Civilians shared it with tears in their eyes. He finally gets it, one comment read. At a small retirement home, Captain Eliza Monroe watched the clip on her nurse's phone. She wiped a tear and whispered, he read my words. The nurse smiled. The whole country is reading them now. Inspired by the moment, Trump launched a new initiative, Honor Meals, a national program spotlighting the stories behind military rations and honoring food service members like Rachel. Letters began pouring into Fort Elridge, written by schoolchildren, veterans, and grateful strangers. One note read. Dear soldier, I saw your meal with the president. Thank you for being brave. I hope your stew is warmer than my school lunch. Months later, Trump returned to the base, this time without cameras, without press. Just a brown pouch in hand and a promise kept. He shared another meal with Rachel and her team. No speeches. Just friendship. Toward the end of the meal, Trump stood up and smiled. I may never win medals for bravery, he said. But I've had the honor of eating with America's best. He took a bite of the dreaded vomit stew and gagged dramatically. The entire tent burst into laughter, real, unfiltered, healing. Rachel doubled over, tears streaming down her face, laughing too hard to speak. In that moment, in that tent filled with laughter, pride, and something deeper than politics, the story came full circle. Not just about a president eating stew, but about what it means to sit, to listen, and to truly understand those who serve.